And he said, I want to get that out there because Johnny Robertson will be watching, and if I say it, then he is going to put it on Star News. And that was a just unbelievable moment in my life, and the reason why is because I don't really think that much. I mean, I just don't have the idea in my mind that we are in a position where people literally think about what we think. I know I have told you before that Leonard Jones told my mother that when I introduced him to her for the first time a few months back, that everybody needs a gauge. And he said, your son is a gauge to a lot of people. And he's not just talking about me. He's talking about the congregation that meets here at 823 Starling Avenue, the Lord's Church in Martinsville, Virginia. And a lot of people are dealing with a lot of problems, and we help them with their problems because we teach on marriage, divorce, and remarriage. We teach on things like Christmas, and appreciate Eugene's words in front of the Lord's Supper. Very thought-provoking and detailed in regard to the kingdom and the fact that we are in it now. And so when I talk about Mr. Whitfield and him talking about the fact that Christmas is not Jesus' birthday, he went on to say that also the manger scene that everybody has out, he ended up saying that that was not, in fact, a correct manger scene if it has the wise men in it, and he's right. The wise men didn't come along until later. Jesus was an infant in a house when the wise men came. And one lady called in on television one time and said, well, if Christmas is really not in the Bible, well, what about the little drummer boy? What do y'all do with him? And it's like, what are you talking about? There's no little drummer boy in the Bible. And it was James Ophil's call, and he just barely could continue with a straight face, because to think that the little drummer boy, but that is where we are, is it not? In the religious realm, it's just like, tell me anything, and it just becomes true because a pastor just wouldn't lie, would he? And it's basically my task this morning to try to get us in a thinking mode where we are careful and we basically say, you know, if I'm in this position, then it is extremely important that I do something about it. I'm beginning my lesson this morning with something that might be a little bit outside of your general thinking process, but I want to demonstrate that there are certain laws, and these laws, once they are discovered, say for instance, they are irrefutable. They are things that allow us, for instance, to go to the moon and back. And that law is being demonstrated in this picture. I've got another picture that's coming up. This is basically the trajectory that the return module or the shuttle now has to hit in order to get into the Earth's atmosphere. It is an absolute, unchangeable truth that if the shuttle does not come in at an exact trajectory and hit our atmosphere, and this is going to be it right here, and so I know you're probably, possibly, and that's fine, thinking about, why do I need to know this? It's because of the way truth is. Truth is so important in people's minds when it comes to certain things. I know I'm not flying to the moon. You're not going to fly to the moon. You might become friends with Elon Musk and get a ride to Mars in your lifetime. That is possible, but I can tell you this would become extremely important that you come in at 40 degrees and you would be able to get into the atmosphere as opposed to skipping off of it just like a rock on a pond because your trajectory was not just right. If you're a swimmer and you have the ability to dive, I'm pretty sure everybody who has ever taught themselves how to dive has done a belly buster. Nobody likes it. It hurts, and it's because your trajectory isn't just right, and that's exactly what we're talking about here. So there are just things in our life that are absolute, and if we would realize how helpful and useful it would be if we would get all the things aligned. When we have absolute truths that are going to better our life, then all of a sudden we should realize we need to have those truths aligned so that we can benefit. And here's the problem that we're having. We are actually having a problem, and it's basically to a certain degree, or really the entire degree, that people were in the New Testament. It's the exact same issue. Galatians 3:1. O foolish Galatians, who hath bewitched you that you should not obey the truth? Now, I know people don't like it. I don't like it. Anytime that I am fooled, I don't like it. In the last 3 years, we have been fooled by individuals, and it's going to be a continuing process because we're continually bringing in new people from different states, and sometimes people come in and they're not what they pretend to be, and sometimes they don't know it, and then all of a sudden they just blow our world up. And so that was, some individual said to me regarding a gentleman from Georgia, really up, and does it not make you angry? But when you start finding out that your soul has been tricked out of you, that's what he's talking about. Now, the reason I went ahead and got the Bible program up is I wanted you to be able to see the word. The word literally in the Greek dictionary is to malign, by extension, to fascinate by false representations, or bewitch. Now, I don't really think that I had to tell you what bewitched mean, but you do need to know what it meant in the Greek. And one of the tools or the means by which this takes place is right there, to fascinate. And is it not the case that denominationalism, everybody has had some association with denominationalism, is it not the case that there are some facets of these particular sects out here in Martinsville and wherever that are fascinating? Just let me ask you, you don't have to answer, but I am going to ask, we're going to be meeting Gino Jennings on the 29th in Greensboro. I have been fascinated by Gino Jennings' willingness to get down on everything and anybody. No punches. He does not pull any punches. And I'm fascinated that there's an individual like that. He was on a broadcast with a guy that I see on national news from time to time. I think it's called Fallen State. And the guy asked Gino, he said, "Are you the head of your house?" He said, "Absolutely, I'm the head of my house." He said, the host said, "It's been a long time since I would actually say they were the head of their house." And so when I think about Gino Jennings, I basically am fascinated by him, and I'm fascinated by some of the things that he gets away with as well. And so, is it the case that...
Good to be with you tonight. I'm Johnny Robertson, and we're live on What Does the Bible Say? We appreciate all of the viewers tonight in the Martinsville, Henry County area. Also streaming live on YouTube. And so we're doing our simulcast if you're with us. See, I'm playing around here with bookmarks in my hand. I want to say thank you to Steve Thing in Kansas City. He's been sending these over, and they're basically designed to hand out and advertise what does the Bible say. There's a QR code on it, and it basically has information that help people who are lost. Can you do this? I'm saying simply, can you do this? Can you go just anywhere in a town that you live and go to a gas station and just go through and look at a person and say, "It's a friendly person. I think that I'll either strike up a conversation," and here's how you do it. You just simply say, "Have you ever heard of a religious group that audits churches?" I never get turned down when I start talking to an individual, and I end up telling them they want to know what I do, or they have some curiosity about me. I wear a hat, a cowboy hat. I've had a cowboy hat since I was 3 years old. Oftentimes people just start up with me, And they asked me what I do. And I said, well, I actually do a broadcast where we audit churches. And it's immediate. I had a guy in outside of Houston. I think it was in Spring, Texas is where I was, somewhere around in there. And it was in a music store. And I was telling this guy about the YouTube site. And he just ends up just pounding on his keyboard, talking about the idea of seeing something where people are, held accountable. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing tonight. What are we looking at here? Y'all, this is a religious pimp. And when you hear me say that, you could be saying, well, he's using that, accommodatively. I'm not using that accommodatively. This guy's a pimp. And he is a religious pimp. So again, that's, you mean to say that he's doing something that you consider somehow or other explain yourself qualified. I'm not. I'm saying this guy is running a group of women and they panhandle for him. I don't know what all control he has over them, but he was in Martinsville today, Martinsville, Virginia. And he's basically from Charlotte, North Carolina, and he is making money by presenting himself as him. He's not really presenting himself at all. The local news came down to the intersection and got this footage, and we'll show you some in just a minute, how this guy, he was behind the scenes, but he has these women out there, and they're talking about a homeless center they're trying to support in Charlotte, North Carolina. And they're trying to get you to give them money, and they're telling you that they need to get enough money to stay in a hotel and to feed themselves, and then everything else that they get goes to this homeless center in North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina. That's, that is not what's going on. So what are we doing? We're auditing this situation. We're looking into them. We've looked into them before. The news was out there as well. And so that's some of the stuff that we're going to cover tonight. We're actually going to look at who is worse. And we're going to ask you the question, why aren't you doing something? I'm saying that is exactly what the body of Christ, the church of Christ, the Lord's church, Christian people should be doing, is they should be eradicating this kind of stuff. They should be pointing their finger at it. All this staying inside of your building and just talking about what you're going to do and talking about all these different things and nobody ever going out. I put up a video just a few hours ago, and the comment back was, thank you for helping me to get out of my house and get onto the streets and do something about the current situation. Well, what is the current situation? Well, one of the current things of the current situation here is that this is going on. And then on top of that, look at this. Our local sheriff is talking about resigning. So you got this kind of stuff going on, and we supposedly have an ordinance that won't allow this kind of thing, especially intersection like right in front of Walmart. The sheriff's resigning. It's just basically we're trying to figure out what in the world is going to happen next and who can do something about it. Well, who can do something about it? Listen, we can do something about it. That's what the point we're trying to make tonight. And what I want to start with is I'd like to do a little bit of encouraging for individuals that are watching, because we have a mixture. We have people that locally know that this is going to be something that we talk about. So some of them are watching that are not associated with us at all. I saw some comments that I don't know. But we have people that are watching, and they're basically saying, how can I start trying to involve myself in this kind of work? How can I better myself in regard to becoming a teacher, learning the Bible, studying the Bible? Here's what I want to put in front of you tonight. Here's a book called Preaching and Teaching with Imagination. It is Warren Wiersbe, and what it actually does, it just stimulates your brain to think a different way. And just about everything that we do when whether we're about to build something, whether they're about to go somewhere, just hardly anything we do, we imagine it first. We start thinking about it, and we start imagination, and then we begin a process. Same thing when you talk about teaching. You basically have to get into the text, and you can't just look at the text and say, and I'm going to give this to Caleb. He brought this up today when we were talking, and he said, Peter was always getting a hard time because he was saying certain things and always running ahead. And then Peter in John 13, 14, 15, 16, and in the other ends of the gospel accounts, he ended up saying he'd give his life for Jesus. And pretty much what you get about Peter after that is that he denied him 3 times. But who actually paid attention to the fact that Peter drew his sword in the garden? in the Garden of Gethsemane. What does that mean? Peter said, I will die for you. And Jesus said, before the cock crows 3 times, you will deny me. But here is a guy who actually is in the Garden of Gethsemane with Jesus when the soldiers come, and he pulls out his sword and he strikes one of the individuals. So what is that when you're going through there? What you're doing, I have looked at that and I've heard sermons, whatever, for how many years. I've never heard anybody say that he was actually in the process of dying with Jesus. You basically see these soldiers coming. You know that Jesus said he's going to be betrayed. He's been talking about dying, and everybody's been watching him and just all kinds of fervor associated with Jesus. And the next thing you know, here they come on a very, very key night where there shouldn't be anybody out, especially bothering Jews at this particular point. And Peter basically would start the revolution. Can you imagine being in that kind of situation? Listen, y'all, when we start talking about being with real Christians, you have to actually live with imagination. You have to actually say to yourself, I can imagine myself on the streets and I'm handing out one of these QR code on the bottom of it, as I said, tells you how to get to our YouTube. What do you really have to imagine that's negative about this? You get it into somebody's hands and they basically look at it and you say something, whatever you want to say, but if you want to get their attention, you tell them this is a website where preachers get audited. Church members of all stripes end up telling these guys information and they investigate it, put cameras on it, put it on live television, ends up going up on YouTube, and you will strike up an interest. They will go, I have people subscribe all the time. So here's another book. This is to you guys who are thinking about maybe you would like to start trying to instruct individuals. You want to do some Bible studies with individuals that you may be talking to as a result of this. This is a book called Why Johnny Can't Preach. It is a retired Presbyterian, and he actually gets in and talks about the fact that media have shaped the messengers. The way media is today, you may not even realize it, but it's a subtle thing that happens. Your mind actually gets shaped by the information that is put out there, and there is a lot of good information in this. I haven't read the entire thing, but I cannot wait to get further into it because on one occasion, an elder actually is confronted about the fact that this preaching is so bad, and he says, all the preaching is bad. He said, we're used to that. It's like we're looking for a man that is, good with the people, and he has some social skills, a good family, and things of that nature. But, preaching is bad. Nobody does a good job. That's awful. So what are we doing? We're basically setting you up to make you imagine yourself here. Now, I'm going to tell you tonight, we were not here. This is not where I was in this scenario. I wish that I had known about it, but I wasn't there. But I will say this, our local news was there. And so here's some footage letting you see a religious pimp and what actually is going on right under people's nose and what we should be doing about it and what we're, I'm saying people prepared to do something. Here we go.
And here's my boss. And here's my boss. You can talk to him.
Oh, awesome.
I'm a woman of Christ. And here's my boss. You can talk to him.
Are you ready?
Oh, awesome. Charles Rourke, Star News. How you doing, sir?
You who?
Charles Rourke with Star News TV.
Did I give you permission to do anything?
Oh, that's a thought, sir.
Yeah. How about it?
I'm sure we're Christians.
Huh?
Just get ready for this. Can I encourage you to get ready for this? Everybody thinks they have a right not to be recorded. You just need to get over this. If you're going to be a soldier, if you're going to be a person who's on the streets, if you're hitting the streets, you're going to have to realize it is not against the law in a public setting, and you do not have to have people's permission to tape them. This guy is actually a panhandler, or she is a panhandler, and he is running her. And he comes up and says, I think the dude really believes that he has the right to say, did I give you a right to film me? Now, he could have believed that Charles was not really a news reporter. Charles may have just run down from the TV station and just, jumped on this to make sure he didn't miss it. He might not have had his media card. I don't know. But I know that people really think that they have the right in a public place not to be recorded. How do I know this? Because we study the laws in Virginia. Not only that, we have been inside of church buildings where a secretary actually calls the lawyer up and the lawyer comes to the church building. And the secretary is saying, I didn't give them permission to record me. What were we recording? We were recording a scam that was going on in a local seminary that was giving out very cheap paperwork so that you could be a bishop or you could be a pastor, whatever. And we worked on it for several months, and it was coming to a conclusion. We're inside this Episcopalian building, and it just comes out. And he said, there's nothing we can do about it. It's this kook down the road. Now, look, you're going to have to get over that part too. Are you really willing to be a follower of Christ when you really get down to it? I'm saying the real question is, what kind of psychological stuff have people put in your mind when it comes to who you are and what you're supposed to do? In 1 Corinthians chapter 1, do you realize what the Bible actually says in regard to how it is going to be if you're involved in getting the truth out? For the preaching of the cross is to them that perish foolishness, but unto us which are saved it is the power of God. How powerful do you think it is? I absolutely cannot understand how it is that men and women, when they are convinced that they truly are listening to the Word of God, I'm talking about from the text, or we could be talking about people that think they've seen a vision. I hate that that's the case, that people think they've seen a vision. But when we're talking about thinking they absolutely are in tune and are getting information from God Almighty, everybody knows that we didn't make ourselves, we didn't put ourselves here. I mean, in Hebrews chapter 3, verse 5, every house has a builder. Everything that is designed, everybody knows that somebody put that together. And it's greater than you because you can't manage it. You're afraid oftentimes. Natural events make you afraid. Darkness makes you afraid. And when a person thinks that they are getting information from God, it does something. Look at this passage. It is the power of God. I just am amazed myself continually. Even after 30 plus years, I still continue to be amazed at what the Word of God will actually get people to do. And especially when it is the truth and you take a chance. I know a guy today. He is, I'm not going to tell you his rank, but I can tell you this, it's above a captain in the U.S. Armed Forces. And he ends up talking to somebody who outranks him. Basically, that would be the XO on a ship. If we're in the Navy, you basically got the captain of the ship or the commander, then you got the XO. This person is at the XO level, and he's talking to them about their personal life and putting himself in a position where they could actually report him, and he lose his entire career over a discussion with someone about their personal problems that he actually thinks that he can help them with. Things people are willing to do. Last week, I was in the Houston area, Bryan College Station. What was going on there? Somebody flew in from Chicago, from Iowa. Somebody else came in from Monterey. I'm from Virginia. It had individuals that were gathered there to do what? To try to encourage another individual in that area who's trying to reach people through YouTube. Why do they do that? Because they basically know that the way that we work on this right here is we end up putting God in the mix. Now, this guy is actually calling on God's name too. You see how this works? I don't really know how this guy gets these women to do this, but I'm going to continue on. You're going to be able to tell why I say that he's a pimp. Listen.
I thought you were Christians.
Well, why are you attacking us?
I'm not attacking you.
Why are you going there? Why are you going there?
Why is he?
She's thinking about getting in the car. You got the news down here. How in the world are we going to get money when you got the news down here? It's probably going to go on some station, some show, and everybody's going to know that the secret's out. And he's like, what you doing? What are you going over there for? Where you going? It's basically get back out on the street. Your job isn't done. This guy is actually running a scam. He is an individual who is in charge of these women. I don't know where they're staying in Martinsville. That would be, I don't know if they'll be here tomorrow night. Oftentimes they come and go. I don't know where they're staying, but I know that it's not a good scene. And I know this lady right here, she is not in a good place. Continue to watch.
I do not know. Let him do what he do.
All right, we just got assaulted here.
Yeah, I know you did.
Yeah, by the Miracle House of Hope.
Yeah, I know you did. Did I ask you to put that in my face? Huh? Did I ask you to put that in my face?
Are you gonna hit it again?
I might hit you in the mouth.
Oh, gee.
I hit you in the mouth a while ago then. I hit you in the mouth a while ago.
So now they think assault's funny at the Miracle House of Hope.
Here you are. This is basically what we're up against is individuals play all kinds of mind games with you. I mean, you think about this. You're talking with this dude and he's blaming you for everything really that he's doing. He is in the wrong. There's no doubt about it. He knows he's in the wrong. He actually admitted to an individual who claimed to be a news representative that he hit him in the face. You all saw what he did, that he knocked the camera out of his hand. And it is very possible as his hand went down, he hit him in the face as it swiped by. He claimed that he did. No fear, no worry. And what is this? This is religion. What am I trying to get you to see? The reason this guy believes he can get by with this, y'all, is because nobody says anything about anything anymore. They basically just let things happen, and an individual like this can come into town and he has a handout that says that they're from the House of Hope and that they're raising money for a homeless shelter in Charlotte. I mean, really? Why attach Jesus' name to that? You need to watch a little bit of it.
We've been doing this story for years about you guys out here raising money from Charlotte. And there's been an ordinance passed that you can't do it.
Well, why haven't they?
Who are you?
Huh? I'm Charles Walker.
Like, TV camera.
You don't look like you're no camera. You look like you're like.
Like you're getting hot, bro.
What you gonna do to me now?
Hey, you better get some business. That's what you better get.
Some business.
Some business.
You know, how dangerous is this individual? But here's the thing. Y'all, why do people put money in the bucket? Are you thinking with me? This is the exact same game that's going on over at the church buildings. Why do people put money in the bucket? Individuals like him know that people have a moral issue that's going on in their conscience in regard to people that are supposedly homeless. Basically, look at your circumstances as you drive up to the light. You know you're in good shape. Look at the woman. She's telling you a tale about people that are homeless. And, you know, it's not like TV. When you see people homeless on TV, there's one psychological thing that happens there. But when you drive up to it and you actually have the person standing there right there beside you and they're talking about it. I've dealt with these people myself. As a matter of fact, I was pulling a dollar bill out of a cubbyhole in a Mazda 626 once, and Charles actually called me from up at the station, which is right above this red light, and he called me just to tell me what was going on. I said, I'm down here at the red light right now. I said, I was really thinking about putting something in, and he goes, Johnny, what in the world? I cannot believe that you would do that. See what I'm saying? They play on a moral obligation that you end up feeling, and this is just wrong. And what we're saying tonight when we talk about this is actually what's going on in religion. And look at this. I want you to look at Galatians chapter 3 with me. In Galatians 3 verse 1, it says, O foolish Galatians, who hath bewitched you that you should not obey the truth? Let's look at this. Look at this word, bewitched. If we get the dictionary out, the Greek dictionary, and we look at it, it says to malign by extension, to fascinate by false representation. Isn't it amazing how we are actually made? You think about your stuff as you drive up to that, and you see this woman who said to Charles, I'm a Christian woman, and I'm raising money for homeless people. Fascinate by false representation. You basically, something switches in people's mind. It has to do with their conscience. It has to do with some moral obligation that kicks in. Good people trying to actually think about doing something good today. And here's an opportunity. And then you find out on the news tonight, as you're watching the news, you end up finding out, guess what? This guy is running a stable of women, and he has them all over the place. He's been banned from some other states. I think he's been banned from South Carolina altogether. Now, sheriff is resigning. And I would say in our area that, Sheriff Perry maybe just gives up. I don't know, but I do know what he's doing. He's going to go into preaching. I've talked to this guy many times about the activity that we're involved in. And I want you to think about this too. As you're listening to us and you're listening and watching, you're saying, you don't sound like a preacher. Now, wait a minute. I don't sound like a preacher. And you basically are looking at this scam going on. And I'm telling you that I have all kinds of discussions with the local sheriff about things that we do. And all of a sudden your mind clicks and you say, you don't look like a preacher. Can I ask you if I don't think anybody tonight is going to miss this one. What did Jesus do when he went into the temple and he saw the money changers? Did Jesus look like a Christian in your mind? What did he do? He wove a whip. He turned over the tables of the money changers. What was he doing? He was ending a scam. Is it the case that the police are the only ones who can end a scam? Is that really what you think? What is your preacher for? I'm saying, what are the pastors for in our area? If it's not to actually be the first one who keys in on this. There's a scam going on down at the intersection right below Walmart, and these guys are these women are actually trying to get people to put money in a bucket for something in North Carolina. Charlotte, North Carolina has been going on for years. That's what a preacher does. He exposes individuals who put on the cloak of religion, and the pastor, the sheriff actually knows that that's what we're about. But you know what? He's got a job too. And what is it? He has to respond to individuals that are scamming, and they're respectable scammers in Martinsville, the Episcopalian Church in Martinsville, and the particular seminary that we were dealing with. They have a respectable reputation. He has to come when they call. He, not himself, comes, but the police do have to come and respond to the complaint. And they sometimes put a restraining order on us, whatever. That's what a preacher is for? What do you think a preacher is for? I'm saying really and truly, if that's not your job, what is your job? Now I want to ask you, which one of these guys looks worse? Which one of these individuals? You see the look on this woman's face? Is she not pitiful looking? And I'm not making fun. I'm saying this woman looks like she is under duress. She has the look down, don't think she has in practice. And so you're looking at the guy that's pimping her, and then you got this other guy. He is nice, clean, and he is talking to Caleb in a mall in Eden, North Carolina. Let's go and take a listen. And you decide which one of these is actually the worst. Here we go.
Okay.
I don't like pictures. I don't see anything like that on me.
Okay.
Well, you want us to take a picture of it.
Do what? No, I'm not taking a picture.
No, he's not taking a picture. Put your phone in your pocket.
I don't have to put my phone in my pocket.
I'm talking to anybody that's in the religious realm. Why don't some of you guys in the Martinsville area, the Henry County area, who are religious, realize, you know what? All of these guys have something in common. They're basically taking advantage. And do you have a phone? Instead of some of the silly stuff that you do with your phone, taking selfies and sticking your tongue out, so things like that, how about actually record some of the stuff that's going on around you? Well, you might say, well, what would you do with it? How about you send it to joeblue81@gmail.com. Send your video, make it into a video, put it up on YouTube. If you have a YouTube, if you don't have a YouTube, if you've got a Gmail account, you have a YouTube account, you just may not know it. Get somebody to help you do this. There's so many young people that watch our broadcast. You could actually be putting stuff up and leave it unlisted. If you don't want it cluttering up your YouTube, leave it unlisted and send me the link in an email, joeblue81@gmail.com, and get it up on television. It's that easy? Yes. What are we doing? We're auditing religious behavior. You see something in a religious setting that you think is interesting, you think might actually be shocking, you basically take a video of it. If you don't know how to do it, get someone else to do it for you, put it in a YouTube so that you can give me the URL, give me the address up in the search box. You just basically you just really share is what it amounts to. You have a little button down here that says share. Send it to me. What will we do with it? We'll show what's going on in your area. You saw me, I would say just last week, I was in Bryan College Station. There we are. We're actually assembling here. We're not assembling at this moment, but we're getting ready to. I'm taking a rest here because we put all the stuff together. Finally got everything in motion. What are we doing? What have we been doing? Look, y'all, I was in that area, and it's like no matter where we are, what are we doing? We have the same thing on our mind regardless of where we are. We were basically talking to the Cowboy Church. And I'm going to get back to the video with Caleb in just a minute, but I'm just saying we were talking to the Cowboy Church.
We do that in several different ways, mainly by we accept churches as the American Fellowship of Cowboy Church. And we do that in several different ways, mainly by we accept everybody. We're non-denominational, usually with a little bit of a Baptist
Do you hear that?
flavor.
Yeah.
It's the phenomenon that is going across the nation. Nothing like it. How do we do that? We accept everybody. Accept what? We accept money. This is exactly the same thing. Look at this cowboy. I'm asking you, which is worse? Which is worse? Is it the cowboy? Is it the woman here? Is it the guy at the mall? Is it the pimp that's running the stable? Which one of these is the worst? And you might say, well, you know, this guy here behind the dude with the hat, he looks respectable. He's got a nice blue shirt on. He's clean. He's in the mall. He's not causing any trouble. That's what you say. But he looks better than the others. And then you go over here to the Cowboy Church. They're all the same. They're running a scam. We accept everybody. I don't know why that dude, I am filming there. I'm driving down the road and I see this. I pull up in there. Why would you do that? Why would you not? I'm saying, what has it in your mind? What's programmed your mind that says that you don't belong in that setting? It was a pasture. I'm saying in a Texas highway, they have a tent set up out there. I'm a curious dude. These individuals are looking for anybody that will come in. Do they want to talk to me? Absolutely. I'm dressed just like him. And this dude was willing to, give it out. What tells you in your mind that you can't do it? Why in the world are you not doing it and using something of this nature? And you basically leave him with the ability, a person's ability to get on and watch themselves, if you send the video, and watch all kinds of events just like this. Why are you telling yourself you can't do this? Why are you telling yourself there's no power in it? It doesn't do any good. I hear people all the time saying to the congregants, this doesn't do any good. These guys are not doing any good. Are you kidding? We're known all over the nation. People all over the nation are calling us. They're doing things to help us. You know, just the rumor that in December that Caleb was having financial problems with the way he works, his health issues, and him being a new parent, he and his wife being new parents, and you just see this guy all the time doing something for the Lord's work. He doesn't have any hobbies. He doesn't do anything but basically go home, be with his wife and his son, his 8-month-old son, and then get ready to come back to work and basically expose this kind of stuff. The rumor that he was having financial problems immediately began to create help for him. And God bless the individuals that helped him and the brethren that are realizing that we are doing this, and we have people tell us all the time that nobody is doing this. I'm saying they literally, you're getting off the phone. I was getting off the phone with a guy in Tyler, Texas the other day, and he said 5 times at least, nobody is doing this but y'all. Nobody is doing this but y'all. Nobody is doing this but y'all. Doing what? Well, Steve Thing in Kansas City is helping us with these. The gentleman that was talking about us doing that, he's been over in Arkansas helping individuals that he never heard of before. He moved from Virginia to Arkansas and has been helping them maybe for 2 years. Evangelistic work, putting up tents over there, trying to do the same thing. In Tyler, wanting to do the same thing. Now, here's the question. Which one of these is the worst? They're all the same. Listen to this. And none of them, upon being outed, none of them want you to have it on tape. You understand what I'm saying? This other guy, this cowboy, he had no clue that there was anything like this around. But this guy here, he immediately catches on.
Okay.
I don't want pictures. I don't see anything like that on it.
Okay.
Well, you want us to take a picture of it.
Do what? No, I'm not taking a picture.
No, you're not taking a picture. Put your phone in your pocket.
I don't have to put my phone in my pocket.
You must be at least 42. You're in the Bible study Monday night. And I should
This
tell
guy, nice, clean cut. Anything wrong with this guy? This guy just got caught scamming. He's up in here trying to convince somebody that through his association with you, a miracle can actually happen. How does he do that? How does that actually work? Well, listen, y'all. The Bible is powerful even when a person is lying. People think they're hearing from a person that represents God and that a person would not lie about such things, and they become fascinated. Here it is again. Bewitched. What was the word? What did it mean? It means to fascinate by false representation. And what happened? He got caught. Caleb is in there with a camera. I don't know if he had a video camera back in those days. He might have been 18 years old. And he's talking to this guy. You might say, well, you know, I might be willing to do that. I hope that you would, but I tell you this. You could be doing that very thing, and you could send me the video of this.
Discuss.
What I'm saying is, what he is doing is not even responding.
What she says. She says that this is private property, and she's
No
on
offense, sir. I think it's a
Instead of
felony.
talking to you nicely,
Okay, I did too.
when you come up, don't.
I think it's a felony. That might miracles of God because your faith is held back because of an arrangement.
Watch this. Are you hearing this? You remember the other guy, the pimp? He was basically saying, look, you're not supposed to be recording me. You don't have a right to record me. Well, you sure don't have a right to put your hands on the news representative and break his equipment. This guy is saying, healing will not take place because of an arrangement. Because you guys have created an arrangement for unbelief to grow. Therefore, no healing is going to happen. What? Have you ever heard of such? The stuff that people will come up with to be able to get out of what they were doing or to convince people that are standing around as to why he can't do anything. Now, Caleb will eventually tell this guy, look, Paul's arrangement with Elymas in Acts chapter 13 was that he was trying to retard the truth, and Paul struck him blind. And Caleb is telling this guy, listen, an arrangement is not going to change things, but watch what happens. And I'm saying I would be thrilled to death to get video from you of somebody actually being at the mall or some other place, and you catch up with somebody. It doesn't really matter as far as don't break the law, and you get video and we get to see this.
Arrangement or setup. The Bible does not. The Bible.
She wants us to take this outside.
Not tell him what she says.
She says that this is private property, and she says that
If you don't erase it, she's gonna call the police.
Well, she said that if we don't take
We're out in the country, right out of Virginia, and look at this guy. He's not done.
this outside,
She said he needs
or
to erase
stop
it. Did she say that?
She said that
Are you videotaping me again?
Yes, now,
think
you
it's-
can't touch my
How
phone.
much you want to
sir.
bet I can take?
No, you cannot touch my phone.
Are you with me? Now, this is the part where you might end up saying, you know what? I think that I would have killed the camera up to this point. Look, we train our men to be ready for this kind of activity. How is it that he didn't snatch Caleb's camera the way the guy did with Charles? Because most of the time when our guys are out, they have their business together. You see how my arms are crossed? If you've got your camera and your phone and you're cradling it right here, it's going to be much more difficult for a person actually to get into your space. I mean, you're basically watching him and you're ready for him. What in the world? What kind of preacher does that? The kind of preacher that is exposing these kind of people because you love the people that are being taken advantage of, the people who are being bewitched, the people who are being fascinated by false representation. Is that really how love is displayed? Absolutely. Jesus was exposing the people of his day, and he was doing it at a large scale, to the degree that they ended up saying, if we don't stop him, they didn't say revolution, but that's exactly what they were talking about, that the Romans are going to come and they're going to take our place. What does that mean? They're going to see that we're going to have a revolution, a civil war, something is going to erupt. We're going to all be charged and we're going to be censored as a result of it. And they decided to kill Jesus. This is a scary moment. It escalated to the point where the police did come.
I stood up and talked to you nicely.
Okay, I did too.
When you come up, don't.
I think it's a felony.
It's so bad. I mean, can you tell it? He just wants to hurt him. And this other guy going, it's a felony.
That might be a
I
felony.
don't.
Now I'm keeping it on now for my protection.
I'm calling the law.
Okay.
It's always the same. You can't tape me. Now I'm calling the law. And the police, whatever it is they're doing, I don't blame Sheriff Perry for resigning. Whatever they're doing, people having all kinds of domestic violence. Why are you talking about that, Johnny? I'm talking about that because that is our job too. If we could get the truth out there and we could actually get some of these individuals that are scamming everybody more interested in the money that they can get from you than the truth that they can present to help you with your family, your problems, your restraint that gets you in trouble as far as your spending is concerned, just mess your life up. Let me introduce at this point. When I said we're actually training guys, what does that actually mean? That is a reference to what we also do on our day job. What does that mean? We have guys that work with us, and here's one of them, and I'm going to let you listen to him talk about taking sin seriously, and he's talking about being a double-minded person, and I'll just let you listen and you tell me what you think about this kind of approach and the information he's putting out.
Here, so it says in order to have financial freedom, right? Everybody wants financial freedom. You have to have financial discipline. So you're having to submit to something. You're having to submit to principles. If you want to be financially free, you're going to have to go ahead and voluntarily submit to some things. In order to have more free time, you have to have disciplined time management, right? If I want to have free time for things that I would really like to do, I have to actually submit to certain strictures that I place upon myself in this life in order to produce that free time. He says you have to take responsibility, and to do that, you have to control your ego, right? Now that's submission. You have to submit yourself in certain instances to certain principles that you know are better than what you might prefer to do in the moment.
Do you not get what's being said here? I don't have to explain this, but I'm saying just because we're moving along here, and I'm not going to get to play the whole thing. Your ego just got in it. What are we talking about? Why do you think people wear the things they wear? I'm talking about the price they pay for the things that they have and the bling that goes on, the car, the facade that you put out as you, it's representing, it's you coming down the road, shining, glittering, everything looking good. Ego, our ego. You know what will help your ego? This is what will help your ego right here. The power of the gospel. When a person is convinced that God actually loves you and that God has something good for you, which is the gospel, the good news. And what is the good news? It is that God is not keeping tab on everything that you do that is actually a mistake. It is information that helps you feel good about you because you actually know that there is a heavenly Father who is concerned about your life. And the more you study about him, the more you actually begin to realize the power that he had. Now, tonight, if you're a person who believes that Jesus Christ raised from the dead, that is a very powerful thing that has happened in your mind. You might say, well, I don't really know that I believe that because I haven't really thought about what we're talking about. It was poured into me when I was a child. My parents made sure that I actually believed that particular tenet because it's a tenet that's one of like the 7 great tenets that general mainline people, sectarian denominational people, that they believe. And so I never really thought about what we're saying here. What you're actually saying is that death is not final. Jesus basically demonstrated that death is not final. What does that mean? Well, if you really are studying this, you actually begin to realize, look, I'm living in flesh for this moment in time. And when I'm through with this, all I'm doing is being through with this. I am an eternal being. And all this business about being afraid and wondering what's going to happen next and all of that, all of those things are answered in the same book that told you that Jesus raised from the dead. God's Son raised from the dead, and the reason he died is the very same thing as God not taking tabs of all the things you do. See, this is one of the bad things about religion is religious folk who are trying to take your money are constantly making you feel bad about yourself, making you think that God is unhappy with you, and you come in and they give you a motivational speech. See how that is going? Why do you think Joel Osteen is so popular? He comes in, you actually are already feeling bad because of the religion that you've been taught, which is you're born in sin, you are a sinful creature, you're always going to be leaning on the side of sin. He comes in, he gives you a motivational speech and a bunch of music, and man, you're feeling good for that moment, and you'll pay for it, and they're scamming you. But my point was, our job is basically to try to get the truth out there. What is the truth? Your ego will eat you up. And our man here, Ian Young, is actually teaching on being double-minded.
And the reason you do that is so that your ego doesn't control you. Now, he's talking about a Bible principle here, and I don't know that he really knows that. So the idea is, right, discipline and responsibility actually are freedom, because you create room in this life for you to be able to not be in submission to other things that seem like freedom, but they actually don't contribute to your well-being. And that principle is found here, right? These are the types of people that will affirm that freedom actually comes apart from Christ. Well, no, you don't want to be a slave to Christ, right? These are all kinds of restrictions that are put on you. Caleb has rightly reframed that idea that's often put out. Well, Christianity is restrictive, and he said no, it's constructive. And that's what Jocko Willink, the Navy SEAL veteran, is saying. He's saying no, it's constructive for you to submit to certain principles that create what it is that you want, the free time and the financial freedom that you desire. And that's what's being said, here, this idea that freedom actually comes without having the responsibility that the gospel might lay upon you. That's a cloud without water. That's a well without water. It says in 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 17, these are wells with floods that are carried with a tempest, to whom the mist of darkness is reserved forever. These people are like without understanding, and they're not going to help you either. For when they speak great swelling words of vanity, they allure through the lust of the flesh, through much wantonness, those that were clean escaped from them that live in error. And again, like we were saying earlier, people become Christians, and it doesn't stop the people that are around them, people that are close to them, from trying to feed their advice into their life. And it's like, look, I have another standard, and if you would like to help me refer to that, if you think you have something to tell me that coincides with that, that would be nice. But don't just try to move me away from the thing that I've committed to. But the problem is some people they're not prepared to commit all the way, or they don't recognize when they're vacillating. Like I said, we're going to be talking about that later in part 2. So,
fantastic information. The application he's laying down about individuals basically trying to give you advice. It's not like that they just walk up and say, "Let me give some advice." No, they're feeding in stuff, saying things to you that mess around in your head. Oftentimes people don't even think a thing about what they're saying. You ought to do this, or you would look good like this. And they're feeding into your mind. And you're trying to keep your ego under control so that you can actually be free from all this other stuff that has them enslaved, and they're trying to affect you. This is very good stuff. Now, what about this guy? Why should I listen to him? Why do people that are with us listen to him? Because, for one thing, he has overcome a lot of obstacles. He is from Redondo Beach, California, which is LA. He ended up moving out of LA. He moved into Texas, started his life all over, basically working with a crew in the hot sun in San Antonio, Texas, laying concrete. He learns how to he basically learns landscaping, commercial landscaping, how to pour concrete, works hard, gets himself into Virginia where he can live with us, and he's putting himself through a constant regimen of study. We're studying with him. He works with us on the streets, all kinds of interaction with people, and look at him, the way he looks. Not too many people are going to take a camera out of his hand. And when he saw the video today of Charles having the trouble that he's having, first thing he did is call me up, and he said, right now I'm having a little bit of free time that I wasn't expecting, and I'd like for Charles to know that if he needs somebody to run that camera and kind of run roughshod for him, keep these guys off of him, I would definitely be available. And I guarantee you he knows how to do it. He's been with us very, very many times in all kinds of situations, including getting footage of Geno Jennings and his crew, just a multi-$100,000 group that just came to North Carolina. All of us working together with the news crew. That's the kind of stuff that's going on. Wouldn't you like to be surrounded by individuals like this? I'm saying individuals, evangelistically minded, persons who have it together. I mean, when you're listening to him talk, that is a Bible class lesson. This guy has it together. And he's actually demonstrating that psychologists and a person in that community are actually using some of the same principles that we're using, which means they're drawing from the Bible, even though they don't know it. They have actually decided that certain principles work, and they have put it into their regimen. These are biblical principles that he's actually teaching. I'm so thrilled. I am so thrilled with this young man. I plan to go into Texas with him and just being on the ground with him. I've been in Texas with him in the Dallas, Texas area before, downtown Dallas, Main Street, homeless shelter, looking at some apparatus that was going on there. Just thrilling opportunity to be with individuals who've got their head on straight, have goals in their life, putting them into practice, controlling themselves. You just do not see this guy losing it. He is a joy to be around. The other guys that we work with, same thing. Work hard, put a sledgehammer in their hands, they'll use that. You put a Bible in their hand, a tract in their hand, a goal in their head, and we are getting it done. What are y'all doing? What's the preacher where you are doing? Is he checking his cattle about right now? Do you have a cell phone number? I mean, seriously, I am really being serious about that. Do you have a cell phone number? What you want to call him for? Look at this. Here's where we are. Look at this video.
Johnny Robertson, who challenges people to a lot of debates and so forth, and he made a claim last night that the folks from Liberty University would be at his tent thing he's having in Pelham. And I was just trying to confirm that.
Not true.
It's not true.
Okay.
Well, I'm
just getting ready to call him to let him know that
Wait
we're
a
not going to
minute.
be able to be
Wait
there.
a minute. There's a difference in not true and you changed your mind. Seriously? Now, this is the news talking to the debate team captain, director of the debate team at Liberty University. And he's being asked if he's going to have a debate with me. Now, he's already on record. This is an email that we actually received, intercepted. I am not planning on debating him or even writing to him. He is telling lies about our team and university. It is impossible to answer him because he keeps twisting everything you attempt to say. You're telling me that the director of the debate team can get twisted up by us? I am telling you, these guys are not trained. When you're talking about a debate team, it is just fast talking, trying to make points, and they're graded on some kind of scale that's not even in like any kind of reality. So, what does that mean? I'm telling you that you can do this. You can get yourself in shape where that you can be able to answer the individuals that are out there on the street and do something good for your community. What do you need? Well, here is a book that I think is back in, I'm fairly certain I know it is back in print from this. It is called The Gospel Plan of Salvation by T.W. Brent. You can get this on Amazon. Like some of the money that you would be spending on your ego, you could spend on getting this book, The Gospel Plan of Salvation by T.W. Brent. What is it? It is a gospel preacher from the olden days in the 1800s, and he is taking Calvinism apart piece by piece. It is one of the best primers on Baptist doctrine that you will ever get a hold to. This would put you in a position to actually know what persons believe and what it is that the Baptists, biggest denomination in the United States, aside from the Catholics, what they're doing, how it is that they're making people's conscience feel like they ought to do whatever the Baptist preacher says. Also, this is another one. Now, I can't give you this one. History of the Rise and Progress of the Baptists in Virginia. Now, I'm timing myself pretty close tonight because I want to make sure that I do something that I haven't been doing. We sent a bunch of these out this past week. We constantly send them out. And one of the things that's going to happen when you get this, if I don't tell you this and have this, I'm going to make this into a clip by itself eventually. If I don't tell you this, you won't know what to do with this. This is 1770. This is a history book before the United States was even born. You will find all kinds of interesting things in here. Thomas Jefferson will be in here. This is in Virginia. You will end up seeing that individuals cannot be married in the fashion that the government that they did have, the colonies had, couldn't be married. Why? Because you had opted out of the Episcopalian Church, the Church of England. Now, what does that do for you? It helps you to realize that the law, the government, has never been and will never be the answer to your marriage questions. You need to find out what the Bible says. These people back here in the 1700s, 1770 and forward, as they were opting out of this and trying to go back to the Bible, they ended up finding themselves in a position where there was no clergy, there was no religious entity that was going to marry them. So what did they do? They got married the biblical way. What does that mean? You need to study this, number one, to be able to see that that kind of stuff is going on. Why is that important today? Our government isn't legislating laws in regarding to marriage. Our government is basically worried about when people die, how to disperse the property, how to make sure that kids are taken care of, the whole bit associated with mating. That's what they're worried about. And the moving of property and things of that nature, keeping us from turning into chaos. They are not concerned about being biblical. You might as well get that out of your mind, trying to get a scriptural divorce in the United States and having the government help you. What will help you? Help you get back to basics and realize what you actually are doing. If you look at this book, you will actually realize that you probably were putting a bunch of people in hell and you didn't even realize it. Why? Because they didn't go to the courthouse like you do. They didn't go to the courthouse and they didn't go to a lawyer and break their marriage. None of that stuff. That is all recent. Well, what also are you going to find? I'm going to give you a few pages right quick. If you're sitting here watching me, you should be in a position to grab a pen right quick. It's not very hard. And it will help you to realize how powerful this is. On page 65, you basically have a Baptist history book. On page 65, you have the Baptist telling you that for 20 or 30 years, page 65, it says, after considerable debate as to the propriety of having any confession of faith at all, the report of the committee was received and with the following explanation. To prevent the confession of faith from usurping a tyrannical power over the consciences of any, here we back to the conscience again, a confession of faith. What is that? It's a written down group of rules that some group of men put together and they hold you together with it. We're not doing that. We do not mean that every person is bound to the strict observance of everything therein contained, yet that it holds forth the essential truths of the gospel and that the doctrine of salvation by Christ and free unmerited grace alone ought to be believed by every Christian and maintained by every minister of the gospel. Upon these terms, we are united and desire hereafter that our names regular and separate be buried in oblivion, and that from henceforth we shall be known by the name of United Baptist Churches of Christ in Virginia, 1809. This union has now, since this is actually when the book came out, now 1809 continues up to 22 years without any interruption. 1809, and you've got these churches of Christ going for 20 years. So you back up 20 years from 1809, and you will not find a Campbell in the United States anywhere. What does that mean? What does that mean, and what difference does that make? We're not Campbellites. Individuals were finding themselves back to the Bible and finding the Church of Christ in it before Alexander Campbell or Thomas Campbell ever even came to the United States. Now, here's another piece of information that I think is very useful on page 70. Did you get that? 65 and 70. You actually, on page 71, I'm going to read this to you. You have an individual whose name is Jeremiah Walker. Jeremiah Walker from the General Committee, they both traveled and preached extensively through the state, creating wherever they went much conversation and agitation of mind among the people. Walker published a pamphlet entitled The Fourfold Foundation of Calvinism, Examined and Shaken. It was certainly no mean performance and was thought to have made temporary impressions on many strong Calvinists. How about that? Well, the Baptists all believe in born in sin. The Baptists are all Calvinists. Oh, really? I believe that we can get this scanned into a PDF, this tract, Fourfold Foundation of Calvinism, Examined and Shaken. Who is Jeremiah Walker? He was an individual who did not believe in Calvinism, and he's living up in here, and these individuals are calling themselves United Baptist Churches of Christ for upwards of 20 years prior to 1809. That is good information. This book is filled with information. You'll read about other people that were Baptists. They were Calvinists, couldn't read. They were having all kinds of organizations, and none of them knew what they were doing. That's what you need to know. This is untampered, unvarnished, unadulterated Baptist history. What does that mean? I have the original in Old English. I have the edited version by a Baptist pastor in 1890-something. And then this one is printed by Cobb Publishing, and it is a replica. No messing around with it so that it somehow other guides you towards us. The old version has that just like this one does. This is a very good book, and it's a good book for you to actually know some history about the United States, because they're trying to build a better union as this is going along. A lot of the things that ends up going in there, being involved, is them getting out from under the tyranny of the Episcopalian Church. Now, what are we doing here? We're demonstrating to you the level of teaching, the level of production that is going on here. Liberty University's director of debate team is actually not coming to the debate. I wish that I had time for you to listen. We're going to go off with this actually.
Okay.
Go.
Okay. Just from a news perspective, any reason why not, or?
Just logistics.
Right.
Just logistics. We run a debate camp, and it's just conflicting with that too much.
Well, he said that, if the tent thing didn't work, that he could probably do it on his show. Would y'all be willing to do it on his show at some point?
Potentially. It's just a matter of working through the logistics of it.
Right. Okay. Let me see if I can get just a quote from you, because I want to do a little news story on this. The reason you can't is because of logistics.
Yes.
Okay. Some people might say that I'm just kind of playing the devil's advocate here, that you're kind of like running from him, because he debates. He was debating Miss Phelps the other day. That was the lady that represents that hate group. I guess some people might say that you might. A lot of people don't like debating with him because he's a real good debater.
Well, no, when we talked about this, I had told him that, we would take a position opposite of his just for the exercise of debate. So it wasn't a matter of we're scared of his arguments or anything like that. It's just a matter of, working out the details.
Right. So you're saying you're still willing to do it?
Potentially in the future, if we can work it out, because it's just my understanding was we were just doing the debate for the sake of, debating and having a discussion of the issues.
Right. Well, half he came to you.
What's that?
Half he came like to Lynchburg and debated you there, where the logistics could work out good for you. Yeah.
Well, it just depends on when it is, so.
Right.
A matter of timing.
Okay. All right.
Because our schedule is very, 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 we travel almost every weekend between September and April, so.
Right.
And, doing that would take, obviously, preparation outside of what we're doing to prepare for our competitive season.
Gotcha. Well, if he did come to Lynchburg, could you debate him on camera?
Sure, if the university approved it, yeah, absolutely.
The university,
Thank you so
if
much.
they approve it. I really don't think that's going to happen. The theological seminary has banned me from being on their campus. Why? Because I have gotten so much footage from so many foolish individuals who try to fascinate you with false representation. It's a big place, man. It has some pizzazz, but you know what? That's the director of the debate team, and he was coaching Mitt Romney when he was running for president. And this guy cannot debate members of the Church of Christ. That's you. That's the power that is associated with the teachings that you actually have at your fingertips. It can help your ego. It can help your family. It can help your community if you're willing to get out there and get the message out. God bless you for watching. Always ask for it. What does the Bible say?